Let me tell you how it started. It started on a Tuesday night in November, which is an unremarkable kind of night to have your life rearranged. It was raining in Los Angeles, which is rare enough that the city treats it like a minor catastrophe, traffic seizing, streets flooding in the low spots, everyone driving like the water is personally targeting them. I was home alone, cross-legged on my apartment floor surrounded by fabric swatches and color samples for a studio project, eating leftover rice directly from the container, wearing an oversized paint-stained sweatshirt that I would not have worn in front of another human being for any reason. I had music going low.
Welcome.
I had
Got a
nowhere to
towel
be.
for you.
I was
thanks.
genuinely fine.
Make yourself at home.
Then my phone lit up with a message from Daniel that said, "Hey, bad night, can I come over?" I looked at that message for approximately 4 seconds. Then I said yes. Because of course I said yes. When had I ever not said yes to Daniel Park? The man could have texted me from the moon and I would have figured out how to get there.
I've never told anyone
I
this
changed
before.
out of the embarrassing
but I think it's
sweatshirt.
time.
I cleared the
I'm
fabric
scared.
swatches into a relatively
I know this is
dignified
difficult,
pile.
but I need your honest
I
thoughts.
checked my face in the
Please,
bathroom mirror,
take your time.
told myself
I'm here.
very firmly that I was a normal person having a
need to tell
normal
you
friend
something.
over, and went to make tea.
I've been keeping this to myself.
He arrived 20 minutes later, rain damp and slightly quieter than usual. Daniel's usual was a high energy frequency. Seeing him dialed down was like seeing a city with half its lights off, still recognizable, but different in a way that made you notice things. "Hey," he said at my door. "Hey," I said, "come in, you're soaked." "It's raining." Significantly, yes. He came in and I handed him a towel from the bathroom closet, and he dried his hair in that careless, unself-conscious way he had, which I was not watching. I was definitely not watching. I busied myself in the kitchen while he settled onto my couch, pulling his knees up and leaning against the armrest in a posture that meant he was in his feelings and not quite ready to talk about them yet. I brought tea. I sat on the other end of the couch. I handed him a mug and waited. This was something I had gotten good at with Daniel, waiting. He moved fast in almost every area of his life, but when something was actually wrong, he needed a minute, and if you rushed him, he would close up and give you the surface version. So I had learned over 4 years to wait. "Kara ended it," he said finally. Kara was the woman he had been seeing for the past 3 months. She was sharp and funny and had seemed to genuinely like him. I had met her twice at group dinners and thought she was good. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it truly, despite the small, complicated thing that happened somewhere in my chest whenever Daniel broke up with someone. I was not proud of that thing. I managed it carefully. "She said I was emotionally unavailable," he said, staring at the tea, which is apparently the second time in a row someone has said that to me. "Is it accurate?" He looked up at me, not offended, just thinking, maybe, I don't know, I'm present when I'm with someone, I show up, I do things for people, isn't that? He stopped. "She said showing up isn't the same as letting someone in." I thought about that, she's not wrong. He laughed, short and without humor. "Yeah, I know." He wrapped both hands around his mug. "I just don't know what
This
I'm
is
doing
so
wrong,
good.
like I want to let people
Right?
in.
I
want
told
to
you.
actually connect
You
with
always
someone,
pick the
but
best
there's
spots.
always this."
Of course.
He gestured vaguely. "Glass wall, I can see through it fine, I just can't seem to break it." I watched him carefully. This was more than Daniel usually said. The rain against my apartment window was steady and quiet.
I know I'm not
"Maybe,"
perfect.
I said slowly, "the
I have a lot
glass
to work
wall
on.
is because you haven't found the right person yet, not because you're doing something wrong." He looked at me for a moment. Something moved across his expression that I
feel like
could
we've
not
been
quite
avoiding
read.
this.
"You think?"
Yeah. It's
I
time to
think
be honest.
emotional availability isn't a switch you flip.
is so
I think it
cozy.
happens with
It really
specific
is.
people,
Just
the ones
perfect.
where being
I love
known
this.
doesn't feel
Me too.
dangerous. He was quiet for a long time, then softly, "I'm always available with you." The rain hit the window, the tea steamed. My heart did something very slow and very large. "That's different," I said carefully. "We're friends." "I know," he said, but he said it like he was thinking about
I've been
what that
reflecting a
meant,
lot on
not
my
like he
journey
was
and who I
agreeing with
am.
me.
It's about being
We talked
honest with
for a
myself
long
and
time
others.
after that about Kara,
And that's
then
what I've
about
been going
other
through
things,
lately.
easier things,
Your
the
perspective
way the
always helps me see
conversation
things
always
clearly.
eventually found its own
I have to
comfortable
admit
current.
something.
He
It's not
asked
easy
about
to
my
say
studio
that
project,
I
and
need
I
to be
showed him the
honest.
swatches, and he held colors up to the lamplight and asked good questions in the way he always did, completely interested in things he knew nothing about, because Daniel was genuinely curious about the world, and that was one of the things I most loved and least allowed myself to dwell on. It got late, the rain did not stop. At some point he looked at his
This walk
phone
is
and
just what I
grimaced.
needed.
My
Yeah, and the
Uber is
golden light
going
is
to be a
perfect.
nightmare
It
in this
is really
rain. My
peaceful.
building's
Absolutely.
parking is being
It's not
repaved.
easy
I
for me
had
to
to
say
park 6
this,
blocks away.
but I have to be
You can
honest.
stay,
I
I
need to
said.
tell you something
The
difficult.
words came out before I had fully authorized them. He looked at me, yeah. I have the couch, a pause, or the
Beautiful
bed.
day for
It's
a
a
walk.
queen. I don't move
Yeah, the light
around.
is perfect.
I don't know why I
Look at that
said
old
that
fountain.
second part. It was purely informational. It meant nothing. He smiled, that slow, warm smile that was different from his public smile, the one that started small and
I
built.
have to tell you something
Okay,
real.
yeah, thanks, Noah. It's fine, I said, and I went to get him a spare toothbrush and a clean shirt to sleep in, and I told myself very firmly that this was a completely normal thing that friends did, and that I was handling it with complete maturity and equilibrium. I was not handling it with complete maturity and equilibrium. Here is the thing about sharing space with someone you love in the way I loved Daniel. Every small
This
thing
is hitting
becomes
the spot,
enormous.
right?
The way he
We should
brushed
do
his
this more
teeth in my
often.
bathroom
Definitely.
mirror, leaning on the counter with his elbows. The way my old gray shirt fit him differently than it fit me, broader across the shoulders, the hem sitting higher. The way he looked around my bedroom with the comfortable curiosity of someone who had been here many times but was somehow seeing it fresh, pausing at the small framed print above my desk that I had bought at a market 3 summers ago, tilting his head at it. This is new, he said. It's been there for a year, I said. He laughed. I never noticed it. It's good. A pause. It looks like you. I did not ask what that meant. I was afraid of the answer and equally afraid of not getting one. We got into bed with the careful, slightly funny formality of 2 adults who are navigating a situation with unspoken rules. We lay on our respective sides with appropriate distance between us. I reached over and turned the lamp off. The room went dark, lit only by the faint, wet glow of city light through the curtains and the rain still running down the window. Noah, he said in the dark. Yeah. Thanks for tonight. You said that already. I know, I mean it more this time. I stared at the ceiling. Go to sleep, Daniel. He was quiet for a moment. Then, do you ever feel like you're really close to understanding something about yourself and then it just slips? I considered this. Often,
Welcome.
I said honestly.
Here, a towel for you.
Yeah, the
Oh,
pause, me
thanks.
too.
Make yourself at
I did
home.
not ask what he was almost understanding. I thought if I asked he might tell me, and I was not sure I was ready for that conversation in the dark with 6 inches of mattress between us and rain on the window and everything already feeling several degrees more fragile than usual. I said goodnight. I lay in the dark and listened to his
I've never
breathing
told anyone
slow and
this
even
before,
out into sleep, and
but
I
I think
did what
it's
I had
time.
been doing for 2
scared.
years. I kept everything
know
I
this is
felt very
difficult, but I need your
quietly
honest
inside
thoughts.
myself where it had
Please,
become by
take your
now a
time.
familiar
I'm here.
and somewhat exhausting resident.
I need to
But
tell you
something
something.
about the night felt different.
I've been keeping this
Something
to
had
myself.
shifted slightly in the air, the way a room feels different when a window has been opened somewhere, even if you cannot find which one. I told myself it was the rain. I did not entirely believe myself. He was still there in the morning. I know that sounds obvious. He had stayed the night. Of course he was still there. But there is a difference between knowing something logically and experiencing it at 7 in the morning when you wake up and there is a warm, sleep-heavy person beside you who smells like your shampoo and is making a sound that is not quite a snore but is absolutely the most endearing thing you have heard in recent memory. I lay very still for a moment, looking at the ceiling. Then I got up with the careful precision of someone diffusing something, made coffee in the kitchen, and stood at the window watching the street below. The rain had stopped overnight. The pavement was dark and reflective, catching the pale morning light in long, bright streaks. The city had that specific washed-clean quality that Los Angeles only gets after rain, when the air is actually clear and the mountains appear on the horizon like they were always there and everyone just forgot. I heard him moving in the bedroom. Then his footsteps, unhurried, and then he appeared in the kitchen doorway with his hair loose and unsettled and my gray shirt creased from sleep and the expression of someone who is not yet fully assembled. It was genuinely unfair. The man looked like that at 7 in the morning. There should be a law. Coffee, he said. Yes, I said, good morning. Good morning, coffee. I poured him a mug. He came and stood beside me at the window, both of us looking out at the washed street and the newly visible mountains. He was close, not unusually close, just close in the way that the morning and the small kitchen and the shared night made natural. How do you feel, I asked, about Cora, I meant about last night. He thought about it genuinely, turning his mug in his hands. Honestly, better than I expected. A pause. I think I was more upset about being confused than about losing her. Does that make sense?
This is so good,
It makes complete
right?
sense.
I told you.
Like, I
You
want
always
to
pick
want
the
the
best
right
spots.
things, and I'm
Of
not
course.
always sure I know what I want. He glanced at me sideways. Does that ever happen to you? I kept my eyes on the street, more than you know. He nodded slowly. He seemed to be on the edge of saying something else, and
I
then
know
he
I'm
let it
not
go,
perfect.
and we stood in the
I have a
easy
lot to work
quiet that
on.
was one of the things I valued most about him, the fact that silence between us had never needed filling. He left after breakfast. He
I feel
hugged
like
me
we've
at the
been
door, a
avoiding
real
this.
hug, the
Yeah,
kind he
it's
gave
time
when
to
he
be
meant it,
honest.
arms fully around me and a brief
This is
solid
so
warmth that I
cozy.
carried for the
It
rest
really
of the
is.
day in the
Just
place where
perfect.
I was
I
not
love
supposed to
this.
carry
Me too.
things. I told myself that was a normal evening between friends. That is what it was, that is all it was. I went back to my fabric swatches and my studio project and my carefully managed ordinary life. He texted me that afternoon, thanks again. Last night helped more than you know.
I've been
I sent
reflecting a
back a
lot on my
thumbs up
journey
like a
and who I
completely
am.
emotionally
It's about
functional
being honest
person.
with myself and
The
others.
second time happened 2 weeks
And that's
later,
what I've been
and this
going through
time it was
lately.
not about a
Your
breakup.
perspective always helps
He
me see
texted
things
on a
clearly.
Friday evening, "What are you doing
I have to
tonight?
admit
I'm
something.
bored and my
It's
apartment
not easy
feels
to
weird."
say,
Then
but I need
30
to be
seconds
honest.
later, "Can I come over?" I said yes again, obviously, because I had not learned anything, or rather because I had learned exactly the lesson that was going to make this complicated, that I genuinely could not say no to Daniel Park showing up at my door, and that was as true as any other fact about me. He brought food this
This
time,
walk is just what
takeout
I
from the
needed.
Thai
Yeah,
place
and the
near
golden
his
light is
apartment
perfect.
that we had
It
been
is
going to
really
together
peaceful.
since year
Absolutely.
one of our friendship.
It's not easy
He
for me to
remembered
say
my
this,
order without asking,
but I have
which
to
was
be
a
honest.
small thing
I need
that
to
hit
tell
me
you something
somewhere I
difficult.
was not protecting carefully enough. We ate on the floor of my living room. It was a thing we had always done. I cannot explain it.
Beautiful day
We
for a
simply
walk.
preferred the floor,
Yeah, the
with the
light is
city
perfect.
visible through my
Look at that
apartment
old
windows
fountain.
and a playlist going low, and the specific comfortable ease of two people who have spent enough time together that they have stopped performing and are simply existing in parallel.
I
It
have
was a
to
good
tell you
evening,
something
that was the
real.
problem. It was not dramatic or charged or full of meaningful glances. It was just good the way it always was, and the goodness of it was precisely the thing that made everything so difficult. Because loving Daniel did not feel like a crisis. It felt like a quiet, ongoing truth, like the background music of my life, always there under everything else. At some point, we were lying on the floor on our backs, looking up at the ceiling, the takeout containers pushed to one side, talking about nothing in particular.
This
A
is
conversation
hitting the
that had
spot,
wandered from his
right?
work to my
We should
thesis
do this more
project to a
often.
documentary
Definitely.
we had both watched separately and needed to discuss to, somehow, the nature of courage. "I think I'm a coward," Daniel said at one point thoughtfully to the ceiling. "About what?" "About the things that matter most. I'm fine with professional risk. Start a project, ship a product, put it out there, but personal stuff," he exhaled. "I hold it so close, I don't know how to let it out." "Why do you think that is?" He was quiet for a moment. "Fear, probably, that if I say the thing, whatever the thing is, it changes everything, and maybe the change is bad, and then you've lost something you can't get back." I stared at the ceiling. My heart was doing its careful, practice thing. But what if the change is good? What if it's not? "Daniel," I turned my head to look at him. He was already looking at me. It caught me slightly off guard. I had expected to find him still looking at the ceiling. Instead, his eyes were direct and dark and holding something I could not fully name. At some point, the cost of not saying the thing gets higher than the cost of saying it. He held my gaze for a moment that lasted longer than it should have. "I know," he said quietly, "I know that." The playlist shifted to something slower. The city hummed outside the window. We lay there on the floor
Welcome.
looking at each other in
Here,
the
a
low
towel
light
for
for
you.
a beat that
Oh,
stretched
thanks.
past the comfortable
Make
and into the
yourself at
something
home.
else. And I felt the air in the room change the way it had that first rainy night, that sense of an opened window somewhere, a pressure shift, the feeling of something standing at a threshold. Then he looked back at the ceiling. "I should probably figure that out," he said lightly, like he was talking about a task on his work list. "Probably," I agreed in the same
never
tone,
told anyone
and
this
we let the
before,
moment close over like
but
water.
I think it's time.
But
I'm
something
scared.
had changed. I could
I
feel
know
it the
this is
way you
difficult, but I
feel
need your
weather
honest
coming
thoughts.
before the sky
Please,
actually
take
shows
your
it
time.
in the
I'm
quality
here.
of the air, in some adjustment in the
I
pressure
need
of
to tell you
ordinary
something.
things.
I've been
I could
keeping
not
this to
decide
myself.
if I was more afraid of what was coming or more exhausted from waiting for it. The third time he slept over was not planned by either of us. We had spent the evening with a group, A birthday dinner for our mutual friend Priya, the whole loud, comfortable table of people who had formed around us over the years. The kind of group where everyone has history and in-jokes and the night runs long without anyone noticing. We ended up back at my apartment afterward without having consciously decided to. It just happened, the way evenings sometimes end up somewhere other than where they started. He was on my couch. I was on the armchair. We were talking, but the talking was slower now, quieter, the night getting thin toward midnight. "You know what's funny?" he said, in the particular tone that meant what he was about to say was not actually funny at all. "Every person I have ever dated, every relationship I've tried to build," he paused. "The thing I always wished they were was more like this." I went very still. "Like what?" He gestured between us. "This, what we have, the ease of it, the way I can think out loud around you and not feel stupid, the way you always," he stopped himself, shook his head slightly. "Never mind." "No," I said, my voice came out quieter than I intended. "Say it." He looked at me. The room was lit by one lamp, warm and low, and outside the window the city was doing its usual indifferent, beautiful thing. He looked at me for a long time with an expression I had never seen on him before, something undone, something that had stopped managing itself. "I don't know what I'm saying," he said. "I think you do," I said. The silence between us was enormous and absolutely still. He opened his mouth, closed it, looked at his hands. "Noah," he said finally, "I think," a long breath, "I think I've been confused for a long time about a lot of things, and being around you is the only time things feel unconfused, and I don't know what to do with that." My heart was very loud. I was aware of it the way you are aware
This is
of
so
things
good,
that are doing more than
right?
their usual
I told you.
work.
You always
"You
pick
don't
the best
have to
spots.
do anything
Of
with it
course.
tonight," I said carefully. "But I want to," he said, and then quieter, "I'm scared of what it means." "About yourself." A pause, a nod, very small, very honest. "That's okay," I said, and I meant it
I
fully.
know I'm not
Being
perfect.
scared of what you're
I have a
figuring
lot
out
to
is
work on.
allowed. He looked at me with something raw and searching in his expression. "Has this ever happened to you, like discovering something about yourself that you
I
weren't
feel like we've
expecting?"
been avoiding this.
I held his
Yeah.
gaze.
It's time to be
"Daniel,"
honest.
I said softly, "I've been in love with you for
This
2
is
years."
so cozy.
The
It really
sentence
is
left my
just
mouth
perfect.
and existed
I
in the
love this.
room, and
Me
I could
too.
not take it back, and I did not want to. He stared at me. The lamp hummed, the city moved outside the window. "Noah," his voice came out very small. "You don't have to say anything," I said quickly, and I meant it, because whatever came next I needed him to have space to find it genuinely. You
I've
were
been
talking
reflecting a
about
lot on my
honesty and
journey and
saying
who
the
I
thing,
am.
and that
It's
is my
about being
thing,
honest with
that is what
myself
I've been
and
not
others.
saying. He
And
was
that's
very
what I've been
still.
going through
His
lately.
expression was
Your
moving through
perspective always
several
helps me
things
see
at
things
once,
clearly.
surprise, and something
I
underneath
have to
the
admit
surprise
something.
that looked, if I
It's
was
not
reading
easy
it
to
right,
say,
like
I
recognition.
need to be honest.
Like someone identifying a shape they had seen before but never had a name for. "How long have you known?" he asked finally. 2 years, I said, give or take. "And you just carried it quietly?" "Yes." "Noah," he said my name like it meant something new. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," I said. "It wasn't your weight to carry,
This
it was
walk is
mine."
just what I needed.
He was
Yeah, and the golden
quiet
light
for a
is
very
perfect.
long
It
time.
is.
The
Really
kind
peaceful.
of quiet
Absolutely.
that is full of things being
It's not easy for me to
rearranged.
say this,
"I need to tell you
but I have to
something,"
be honest.
he said
I need to
slowly,
tell you something
"and I need you
difficult.
to understand that I don't fully have the words for it yet, so I'm going to say it imperfectly, and I need you to hear what I mean, not just what
Beautiful
I say."
day for a walk.
"Okay,"
Yeah,
I
the
said.
light is perfect.
He looked at
Look
me,
at that old
direct
fountain.
and scared and more present than I had ever seen him. "I think what I've been confused about," he said, "is not whether I have feelings. I think I've had feelings for a long time.
have to
think
tell
I've
you
just
something
been,"
real.
he exhaled. "I've been so busy not knowing what to call them that I let them sit there unnamed, and unnamed things don't go anywhere, they just stay." I was not breathing in any meaningful way. "Daniel, I don't want to tell you I love you tonight," he said, "because I don't think I've earned it yet. I haven't been honest enough with myself to have earned it, but I want to be." He held my gaze. "I want to actually figure out who I am and what I feel, and then I want to tell you the truth, if that's," he
This
stopped,
is hitting the
"if you're
spot,
willing to give me
right?
that."
We should do this
It
more
was
often.
the most I
Definitely.
had ever heard him say about himself in one stretch. It had cost him something real. I could see it in the way he held himself after, slightly braced, the way you hold yourself after you have done something difficult and do not yet know how it has landed. "Yes," I said, "I'm willing." He nodded once, something released in his shoulders. "Okay," he said quietly, "thank you." We sat in the lamplit room for a while longer, not talking. the city outside doing its constant, unconcerned thing. And when it got late, he stayed again, on the couch this time, by unspoken agreement, by the mutual understanding that some nights end in beginnings and those beginnings deserve to be approached with care. I lay in my bed in the dark and stared at the ceiling, and for the first time in 2 years I was not carrying everything alone. It was, even with all its uncertainty, a relief so deep it felt almost like rest. He called me 4 days later. Not a text, a phone call which Daniel reserved for things he considered important, because he was a person who had opinions about the appropriate medium for different levels of communication. "Hey," he said when I picked up. "Hey," I said. A pause. "I've been thinking. I gathered a
Welcome.
lot.
Here,
I
a towel for
figured.
you.
Oh, thanks.
Can I come over?
Make
I want to
yourself at
talk.
home."
Actually talk, not," he paused. "Not in the middle of the night when everything feels bigger than it is. I want to talk in the daylight, like a person." I smiled at that despite myself. "You're always welcome over, Daniel. Even now when things are. Especially now," I said. He came over on a Saturday afternoon,
I've
which
never
was a
told
very
anyone
different
this
thing
before,
from a rainy Tuesday
but I
night
think it's
or a
time.
late Friday.
I'm scared.
The apartment was lit with clear
I
winter
know this
sun.
is difficult, but I
had
need your honest
cleaned
thoughts.
because I was a person with
Please,
feelings,
take your
and
time.
therefore I had
I'm here.
cleaned. He came in and looked around at the bright,
I need to tell you
ordinary room,
something.
and something in him
I've
visibly
been keeping
settled.
this to myself.
"I talked to someone," he said, sitting on the couch with his hands clasped. "A therapist. I've been twice this week." I sat across from him in the armchair. "Good. She's helping me with the vocabulary part." He said it almost wryly, like he was acknowledging something about himself. "Apparently I have significant feelings but a very underdeveloped language for them, which tracks." "It tracks," I agreed gently. He looked at his hands, then at me. "I'm not going to define everything today. I want to be upfront about that. I don't have a clean label for what I'm understanding about myself yet, and I'd rather be honest about that than hand you a word I'm not sure fits." "I don't need a label," I said. "I need the person." Something shifted in his expression. "Yeah. Daniel, I have been in love with you for 2 years through 4 of your relationships and approximately 100 Saturday mornings I could have spent feeling sorry for myself. I am comfortable with uncertainty. I am not comfortable with distance." He looked at me for a long moment. "I don't want distance either." "Then we're starting from the same place." He exhaled long and slow, the kind of exhale that releases something that has been held too long. "I keep trying to figure out the exact right thing to say, and my therapist keeps telling me that the exact right thing is less important than the true thing. So," he looked at me, "the true thing is you are the person I want to be around, the person I call when something matters, the person who, when I imagine my life going forward, I cannot picture it without you in it. In whatever way you're willing to be in it." "That's not a small thing to say," I said quietly. "No," he agreed, "it's not." "Are you scared?" "Completely." "Of which part?" He thought about it honestly. "Of figuring out what I am, of whether I'm going to understand myself well enough fast enough, of whether," he stopped, "of letting you down." "You're not letting me down," I said. "You showed up, you told the truth, you went and talked to someone. That's not someone letting me down." He looked at me with those dark eyes, and something in them was very open,
This is
like
so
a room
good.
with all its windows
Right?
up.
I told you.
"Noah, I don't
You
know
always
how to
pick
do
the best
this."
spots. Of course.
"Neither do I said. "I've never done this either." "You seem very calm." "I am absolutely not calm. I am performing calm with significant effort." He laughed, just once, short and real, and then the laugh
I know I'm not
softened into a
perfect.
smile, the small,
I have a
slow
lot to work
kind,
on.
the one that built from the inside. "Can we just start somewhere without it needing to be perfectly defined?" "Yes," I said, "that's all I want."
I feel like we've been
"Okay," he
avoiding
nodded
this.
slowly.
Yeah,
"Okay."
it's
He
time
looked
to be
around the
honest.
bright apartment. "Can I take you somewhere like
This
now
is so
today?"
cozy.
I
It really
blinked.
is.
"Where?"
Just perfect.
"I don't
I
know
love
yet.
this.
I just
Me
want to
too.
go somewhere with you, in the daylight, without either of us pretending we're only here because of a bad night." I stood up. "Let me get my jacket," I said. We walked for a long time that afternoon. No particular destination. South along the streets from my apartment, through the neighborhood, into a stretch of the city we both knew.
I've
but
been
had never
reflecting a
walked
lot on
together
my
and played
journey
this
and
way.
who I am.
Side by side,
It's about
shoulders
being honest with
occasionally close,
myself
talking
and
about
others.
everything and nothing, the way we always
that's what I've
talked,
been
except
going
that the
through
ground
lately.
under the talking had changed.
Your perspective
It was
always
still
helps me see
easy,
things
still
clearly.
ours, but it was honest in a way it had
I
not
have to
always
admit
been.
something.
He told
It's
me
not
things he
easy
had
to
not told
say,
anyone.
but I need
Small
to be
private
honest.
things, the way he had always felt slightly outside of his own relationships, watching them from a careful distance. The way he had sometimes noticed things about men and immediately found ways not to look too closely. The way being with me had always felt like the exception to his general sense of emotional distance, and how he had cataloged that as friendship without ever questioning why it was different. "I'm not saying I have
This
everything
walk is
figured
just what I
out,"
needed.
he said
Yeah,
as
and the
we
golden light
rounded
is
a corner
perfect.
into
It
a
is
small
really
park with a
peaceful.
fountain and a
Absolutely.
few people
It's
sitting
not
in the
easy for
winter
me to say
sun.
this,
"I'm saying I
but I
think
have
I've
to
been
be
managing
honest.
a
I
truth
need
for
to
a
tell you
long
something
time that I
difficult.
didn't have the courage to look at directly." "What does it look like," I asked carefully, "when you look at it directly?" He was
Beautiful day
quiet
for
for
a
several
walk.
steps. "It
Yeah,
looks
the
like I
light
should
is
probably
perfect.
stop defining
Look at that
myself by
old
the things I
fountain.
assumed I was and start actually paying attention to what I feel." A pause. "And what I feel is," he stopped walking. I stopped with him. We were at the edge of the fountain, the water catching the afternoon light. He
I
turned to
have
face
to
me.
tell you
"What I feel
something
is this.
real.
You. Whatever this has been for 4 years that I kept calling friendship without looking at it too carefully." I looked at him. The winter sun was on his face, and he looked nervous and honest and more like himself than I had ever seen him, not the assembled, fast-moving public version of Daniel Park, but the actual person, standing in the light looking at me without managing a single thing. "I've been looking at it for 2 years," I said. "I know exactly what it is."
This
"What is
is
it?"
hitting
he
the
asked
spot,
softly.
right? We
"It's the
should do this
thing
more
where I
often.
can't
Definitely.
imagine anyone better. The thing where even the ordinary versions of you, half asleep in my kitchen, terrible opinions about pineapple pizza, the way you hum when you're thinking, all of it is the thing I'd choose. All of it." He was quiet. Then slowly, he reached out and took my hand. Not dramatically, just a straightforward, unhurried decision, his hand finding mine, his fingers closing around it, an action so simple it felt like something that had been waiting a long time to happen and was finally, at last, being allowed to. We stood at the fountain for a while, his hand in mine, the winter sun on both of us. "Hi," he said finally, quietly, like we were meeting each other for the first time. "Hi," I said, and maybe we were. This is the part of the story where I could wrap everything in a bow. The first date, the first time I introduced him to my mother, and she looked at me afterward with the particular expression that said, "Mijo, finally, I have been watching you love this person for 2 years." The conversations we had in the months that followed, careful and honest, as Daniel found his language and I found, slowly, how to let myself receive what I had been so practiced at keeping at arm's length. It was not simple, I want to be honest about that. Daniel's process of understanding himself was real work,
Welcome.
therapy, and
Got a
reflection,
towel
and
for
some
you.
difficult
Oh,
conversations
thanks.
with himself and
Make
eventually
yourself at
with the
home.
people in his life. There were moments of uncertainty and moments when I had to remind myself that his pace was not rejection. That understanding takes the time it takes, that the most important things do not arrive fully formed. But here is what I can tell you. He never went back to that careful, managed distance. The glass wall, the thing he had described to me that first rainy
I've never
night,
told
he
anyone
worked
this
on it
before,
genuinely and persistently,
think
and
it's
it came
time.
down piece
I'm
by
scared.
piece. Not all at once,
I
but
know
enough.
this is difficult, but
and
I
then
need your
more than
honest
enough.
thoughts.
One
Please,
evening
take
in the
your
spring,
time.
about
I'm
4
here.
months after that afternoon at the fountain, we
I
were
need to
back
tell
on
you
my
something.
apartment floor in the old
I've been keeping this
configuration,
to
takeout,
myself.
music low, the city visible through the windows, the ease of people who have spent real time together. He was lying on his back looking at the ceiling. I was beside him. "Noah," he said. "Yeah, I know what I am." I looked over at him. He was still looking at the ceiling, but there was a quiet certainty in his voice I had not heard before, not the certainty of someone performing confidence, but the other kind, the kind that lives in the bones. "What are you?" I asked. He turned his head and looked at me. "I'm someone who loves you." A small pause. "I'm still working on the rest of the vocabulary, but that part I know, that part I'm sure." I looked at him in the spring evening light, this person I had been carrying quietly inside me for 2 years, lying on my floor looking at me like I was something he had found after a long search. "I love you too," I said, in case that wasn't clear. "It was clear," he said. "I just needed to be ready to say it back." He reached over and found my hand on the floor between us. His fingers closed around mine in the same simple, unhurried way they had at the fountain, like a decision made and settled, like something that knew where it belonged. Outside, the city did its ordinary, beautiful thing. The playlist shifted to something warm and slow. The evening came down around us, and we lay there on the floor of my apartment, hand in hand, two people who had taken the long way around to the truth and arrived anyway. And it was enough, more than enough. It was actually everything.